Training large language models and pushing massive context windows used to be a software engineering problem. Today, researchers are hitting a physical constraint, the memory wall. The size of the models is expanding faster than the silicon required to hold them. NVIDIA offers 3 distinct workstation GPUs: the legacy RTX 6000 Ada, the 600-watt Blackwell Workstation Edition, and the 300-watt Blackwell Max-Q Edition. Deciding between them requires you to weigh exact software memory thresholds against the literal electrical physics of your facility. You can find complete technical breakdowns, updated benchmarks, and live pricing for all 3 at bestgpusforai.com. In this matrix, Blackwell doubles VRAM to 96 GB, leaving Ada at 48. The trade-off is power. The Blackwell Workstation demands 600 watts, doubling Max-Q and Ada's requirement. Finally, Blackwell introduces native FP4 precision, entirely absent from Ada's FP8 ceiling. Pick the wrong card for your rack, and you will either severely bottleneck your research team's software capabilities or physically melt your lab's chassis. The primary reason to upgrade to the Blackwell architecture is that 96 GB frame buffer of GDDR7 memory. This bar chart illustrates the exact physical upgrade to the data pipeline. Memory bandwidth jumps from Ada's 960 GB per second to a massive 1,792 GB per second on Blackwell. That hardware bandwidth is paired with a new mathematical capability, native FP4 precision. Watch how that plays out spatially on screen. By dropping down to FP4 precision, you cut the physical memory footprint of your model weights cleanly in half compared to FP8. There is a direct trade-off here. You have to aggressively validate your quantization quality, because aggressive compression can degrade your model's output compared to a standard 16-bit float. But if your workload tolerates it, combining 96 GB of VRAM with FP4 precision effectively quadruples your functional capacity. You can run massive model inference on significantly fewer physical cards. If your priority is absolute maximum throughput, the 600-watt Blackwell Workstation Edition delivers 125 teraflops of FP32 compute. Driving a massive processor to that extreme level of raw compute power generates an immense physical thermal load. To handle that heat, the card requires an extended height, dual-slot chassis and a specialized double flow-through cooling solution. This scorecard highlights the compounding math for a standard 4-GPU deep learning setup. 4 of these flagship cards will draw 2,400 watts. That workload overloads a standard wall outlet. This card belongs exclusively to performance maximizers, who already have specialized 220-volt power drops in their facilities, where minimizing time to first token overrides physical constraints. Most labs do not have that kind of electrical headroom. That is exactly why the Blackwell Max-Q Edition exists. It preserves the critical architectural upgrades. You get the 96 GB of VRAM, faster PCIe Gen 5 communication, and FP4 tensor cores. But NVIDIA engineered it to operate strictly within a 300-watt envelope by using dynamic voltage rails and power gating to shut down inactive portions of the silicon. Look at the scorecard now. A 4-GPU setup of Max-Q cards pulls only 1,200 watts total, keeping you safely within the limits of standard lab infrastructure. The penalty for this efficiency is clock speed. You will see a 12 to 15% drop in peak compute performance compared to the 600-watt flagship. For labs that need modern VRAM capacity to scale their inference, but are physically locked into their existing 300-watt standard chassis slots, the Max-Q is absolutely the necessary choice for their infrastructure. This brings us back to the previous generation, the RTX 6000 Ada Lovelace. It maintains a manageable 300-watt power draw, and 48 GB of VRAM is still highly capable. High-speed computer vision operations, standard stable diffusion workflows, and medium-sized training batches run smoothly on this hardware without hitting memory bottlenecks. However, its technical limits are hard lines. It lacks FP4 precision, uses the older PCIe Gen 4, and has half the VRAM, meaning strict boundaries on model sizes. If your budget is tight and your research team will not be running massive language models or using parameter-efficient fine-tuning, the Ada generation remains a solid purchase. Before you buy, we need to apply a strict reality check. Even with 96 GB of VRAM, a single Blackwell card cannot execute full 16-bit training on a 70 billion parameter model. This stacked bar chart maps the deficit. A 70 billion parameter model demands roughly 140 GB of memory just to load the 16-bit weights. you exceed the 96 GB physical limit before you even calculate gradients, optimizer states, or context caching. Here is the final evaluation framework to simplify your choice. Your first decision point. Do you need to run or fine-tune 70 billion parameter models and above? If no, and your workloads are focused on computer vision or smaller-scale tasks, direct your budget toward the Ada generation. If yes, you need the 96 gigabytes of VRAM. The decision now shifts entirely to your physical lab capacity. Can your facility support 600 watts of power and cooling per GPU? If you have the dedicated circuits and extreme cooling infrastructure, buy the Blackwell Workstation Edition for maximum throughput. If you are locked into standard server racks and wall power, deploy the Blackwell Max-Q Edition to secure the VRAM without tripping the breakers. Hardware availability fluctuates constantly, so verify real-time pricing and deep-dive benchmarks at bestgpusforai.com before you issue a purchase order. Ultimately, successful infrastructure deployments must perfectly harmonize these cutting-edge silicon capabilities directly with the physical realities of your own facility.